Well, I've got to be fair and say that this FM24 Firefighter story has been really enjoyable for me for a number of reasons. Partly because we've been able to have last minute drama, those huge moments of relief and moments of desperation when things go wrong. And also because we've been able to go to some leagues and some clubs that we've never managed before. And today's episode falls well into that category. For the first time since FM brought it into the game, we are heading to Latvia and the top division there. We're going to a side that are in big trouble, as for Club 7 of the FM24 Firefighter, we're heading over to Supernova. Yes, hello and welcome along to Club 7 of the Firefighter with me, Daniel. The FM24 edition is heading over to Latvia after our first stint in the UK went successfully. The overall score is now 4-2, but this challenge proves to be pretty difficult. We've got to avoid automatic and playoff relegation with Supernova, but will it be champagne at the end of the season, or will we be fighting back the tears? Let's go and have a look through the inbox at the message we were left with at the end of the last episode. Supernova offered us a job, a transfer budget, an okay wage budget, and the task of avoiding relegation. Another job that's pretty well paid after our first few. South Gower and Supernova have taken it up a notch. We're going to try and go up to 300 quid a week. Are we going to get there? They're giving us a little bit of fight along the way, but we've got it. We've got a job until November 2026. 6 months to make the difference or lose our job. But will the failures tally move up to 3 this week, an edge closer? Or can we pull away with a 5th success of the series? Let's exit the talks and take charge of Supernova. Do all the usual stuff. An introduction to the staff and the players we're going to be working with. We'll come back at key intervals during the season as well. We'll try and find space for a bit of match action too. All of that on the way, but for now, an introduction to Supernova SK. Well, here we are. It's our first day in the job and eyebrows have been raised because we've recently spent time away from football. One of the things I do like about this job, because the contract actually ends in November, I know a few of you have mentioned it in the comments, it is a job we can actually just wait for our contract to end rather than resign if we succeed. That's definitely going to help us in interviews moving forward. However, we apparently had a famous Swedish Cup tie back in 2025, and supporters are excited about memorable moments under us. Hopefully, we'll be able to deliver them. The club is currently 9th in the First Liga, which is the relegation playoff space, but we have promised to avoid relegation entirely. The media prediction was them just to do that in 8th, but as we've seen in Latvia a few years when we've looked at jobs here, there's generally a top 6 and then there's a bottom 4, and there's a good distance between a lot of them. It's a tiny stadium holding 648 people, basic facilities all round. Do not be mistaken, this is a small club. If we have a look at the 2 staff members there already, Director of Football, how are you? You are absolutely atrocious. An assistant manager, not quite so bad. He's someone we could work with. Let's go and get through the introductory messages though. 442 being recommended. Not sure we're going to stick with that. We'll see what's best when we go through the intro. We're also going to have to avoid relegation. We promised to stay out of the playoff place as well. That was part of us getting a job over other candidates. Get the better of our rivals, who are one of the best teams in the nation. Not sure that's going to be easy. But let's go through the opening day and see what we've got. Is there going to be any quality here? Is it a squad that's going to need complete surgery and repair like we saw with South Gower? Or is it going to be a bit more what we saw with some of the other clubs, Petrozalka, Ragsveds, where you're just sort of tweaking it and hoping to improve? Before we go and do these messages though, just a little bit of an indicator of what I was talking about. So the bottom 4 of this division, as you can see, 2, 7, 10 and 13 points. Then there's a 6 points gap to 6th. Then there's a 9-point gap to the top half. So it is really a table that no one other than the bottom 4 can go down. Our job is to finish in the top 2 of that 14 mini league rather than at the bottom. We'll talk about all of the player expectations and that in a moment. 70 season ticket holders. Oh, we really are pushing the boat out now. Now, the introduction here says finish in a relegation playoff, but we've had this before. If you remember, we had this in a head coach back in FM23 at Peterborough Sports, might have even been 22, where we said in an interview we'd do better and outright avoid. Then in here we said we'd finish in the playoff and we didn't make it, and we got ourselves in a bundle of trouble. I'm going to try and keep it there in the hope that it might not lead to a sacking, but I think we're ultimately going to be expected to finish top 8 based on what we've had before. But let's start by having a look at the staff we're going to be working with. And for the first time in a couple of clubs, it's not an empty canvas. There are some staff here. We've seen the director of football's terrible. There's an under 18 manager who isn't great, but is brilliant working with youngsters. Senior assistant managers, we've met one, the other, not too bad. Again, lots of trends in these sorts of clubs to go for multiple assistant managers rather than a coach. I don't know if it's just the wording or the way they've been carried in the game is wrong, but doesn't make a great deal of difference for us over a stint this short. Goalkeeping coach, how are you? You're all right. Yeah, we can live with that. Head physio, have you got any talent? Not at all. And what about the chief scout? He's actually pretty good. We've got a scout who might find us some players. The transfer window is coming up and it's looming large for our season. So hopefully he'll be a superstar of our time in charge at the club. If we have a look at the schedule, we've got 2 games coming up before the winter break, or the summer break as it is here, sorry. And the transfer window ends after that cup tie. And we've got a big run of games after it. So we're away to 6th and at home to 1st now. But then after the break and the cup tie, we are at home to Jelgava and Dinamo. Now, the reason that's so important, they are the 2 sides directly above us. We have got to pick up points. We will be facing them again this season. We face every team 4 times. We've also got the bottom team back-to-back in late August. So how crucial could that end up being there? So our final few games aren't particularly friendly on paper. We faced the top 2 in our last 2 games. 4th place in our penultimate home game. And away from home to 6th, 3 games to go. They might be the ones where we have to try and get something, because otherwise we could be in a bit of trouble this year. Let's have a look at the youth squad, see if there's anyone worth working with. We have got a 21-year-old who's 2-star ability. Oh, God. If that's 2-star ability, we're in trouble. What about the youngsters then? Kokins. He's a bit better, but physically not quite ready for first team action yet. And then Davis Lager. Pretty similar, to be honest, but they are a bit closer and a bit better than Hermanis. Just seeing if there are any others of that ability there. There's a 21-year-old centre-half. Composure of 1. Strength of 6. Not for me, mate. And then what about the 18s? Any other youngsters? They're the only 2 of that level. Though there is a midfielder who's not terrible, but again, physically nowhere near ready for first team action. So we're going to be relying on the senior team, and the problem with that is it doesn't look particularly good. A lot of them are 2-star ability, which is similar to what we've just seen. And the ones that are a bit more are completely varied in terms of position. We're almost at the wage budget already, so we've got to make decisions as to whether these players on contracts are worth it. We're at a level where the key players are on permanent contracts on sort of part-time deals, and then the other ones are on sort of amateur terms, if they're fringe players, squad players, whatever. And that means that the wage budget is pretty much bang on. So we're not going to be able to do a huge amount unless we get a few out of the club. So let's start by having a look at the one and only senior goalkeeper we've got. That man is injured, which is a concern. He's injured for 5 days, but he's going to have to play tomorrow. It is Rudolf Saloha, 4-star ability, the joint best player at the club, and the biggest earner, and you can see why. He's very good. Jumping reach is average, but everything else is there. Maybe the fact that he missed a few games or he's not been able to play at his best is part of the reason we're struggling. Hopefully he'll give us a boost within a couple of weeks of us starting, certainly once we get through that break period. If we go and have a look in defence, we've got Alexis Kulijins. He is a 3.5-star centre-half. A bit of a weird mix of attributes, but most of the core stuff is there. And I think at this level, that's probably about the best we can ask for. He's played for a better side, our rivals. And he's also played a fair amount of football here. He's had a terrible season, but we can find him a partner and shore things up a bit. Maybe he'll start to succeed. Not seeing immediately where the partner is below, though, because we've got Daniels Fedorovics. He is 2.5-star ability. I can live with him. He's not great. Again, decision-making's not there. He's a little bit shorter on everything else, but he's okay overall. We've also got Christianis Ilenans. He is 2-star ability at 22. Can play right back as well, which is a bonus, but I mean, that's emergency stuff, isn't it? He would be okay at right back. Not sure I'd want him at centre half too often. Next one along is Normans Domyelevs. He is 2-star ability, composure 3, strength 5. No, not for me, mate. No determination either. But we have got a decent right back here. Martins Vekagans, 3-star ability. What do you like? I mean, we're not going to get any amateur players that are much better than that, I don't think. He's a very talented player, also accomplished at left back, which, based on what I've seen from the star ratings below, might be pretty important as well. The stamina's awful, but the natural fitness makes up for it, and the rest is completely solid. Vitali Jablonskis is 2-star. Yeah, not great. Gotta be honest with you, not brilliant. Next one, Nikita Janevich is 2.5-star ability. Oh, okay, he's a central midfielder. Can pass and tackle. I think that is where his limitations then start. He's quick and he's got stamina, but not real mental ability, no all-round game physically. He's just there as a, can we bring you on for 10 minutes if we're a goal up and try and hold out? That's maybe what we've got to aim for with him. The other highest earner at the club, along with the goalkeeper, is Ravis Skrebels. He is a right back and centre midfielder, 3.5-star ability, very versatile. So he's the best right back at the club. There's no doubt in that. And he's also the best holding midfielder. Now, based on his balance of attributes, I'd probably want him in midfield because he's not the best man marker. He's not the most composed, so I don't really want him in my defensive line. However, based on the fact we've not got a left back and Vigakins can play both areas, I think we'll probably have to start with Vigakins on the left and this guy on the right until we can get better people in. But looks a talent, looks someone worth having. So hopefully he'll be able to lead us to glory. And alongside him is the joint best player at the club. Dennis Melnix is a holding midfielder. Yes, very good. Holding mid, centre mid, natural at both, can do the dirty stuff, isn't terrible on the ball, and physically he's very good, which is what we struggled with at South Gower, so that will help us. There's another 3-star holding midfielder earning a wage here, which is Alexei Grasnovs. He is 28 years of age. Not as good as the other two, but okay. So again, if Skrebels have to play right back the first game, this guy can then be our second centre mid. 23-year-old Marek Mixto is 2.5-star ability. He doesn't look like he's giving you much for it as well. Apparently he's a natural number 10. Passing range of 4. Then if you want him to be a different type of attacking player, his off-the-ball movement's 5. No. He might be a quick winger off the bench, but that's about it for me. Next up is Kaspars Vilkovs, who is a 19-year-old young winger. He's not very good, got a poor personality, and is terrible mentally. We've got Rudolf Zengis, a 3-star number 10. He's okay. He's not the best physically or technically, but mentally he is a little bit stronger, which could be helpful. He's only made one sub-appearance this year, so maybe the other attacking players are good, I don't know. Another 2-star ability right winger is Saboha. God, you're awful. Jadson is leaving the club. He's 2.5-star Brazilian. Oh, he's actually all right. I'm a bit gutted about that. We're only going to have him for the next 2 games. He's not good mentally again, but he's quick, he can cross dribble, and he's got a good touch, which at this level is about all you can ask for from a wide man, someone who can get the ball in. Ricards Rulis is earning a wage of 100 quid a week. He's okay. Is he any better than the free one we saw a minute ago? Probably not. But we'll be involved until we can sell him or becomes first choice, whichever way it is. Now we're on to the wingers. We've got Anastasijs Mortadenko. In fact, Mordatenko, sorry. He is a right winger at 29 years of age. He's good off both wings. He's just a solid all-rounder. He doesn't do anything brilliantly, but he's fairly mobile. And he's okay at everything. So we'll take it. On the other side, we have got Olgerd Rasavskis. He is 3.5-star ability. Yeah, he's much more of that cut-in type, isn't he? Because while he is natural off both, he can't cross. And he's not the best in terms of his passing and his natural technical side of the game. He's got a first touch, likes to carry it, and he's fairly quick. And he works quite hard. So off the left, I could see him being a little bit of a threat. The one I missed out in between is the joint best player at the club, who's out for 10 weeks injured. That's great. That's what we want to see. A centre mid and a right winger, Nix Dusalijevs. Maybe I might be pronouncing that horrifically. Probably am. He is a very good centre midfielder and he's a very good winger. I might even like him better as a winger, to be fair. Runs down the right, tries killer balls, dictates the tempo of the game. My 2 options here are either 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. But based on that injury to him, Jadson leaving the club, and the fact that we've got 2 or 3 number 10s, I think 4-2-3-1 is where I'm leaning. It's just about whether we can then get in a left back and a centre half in the window. The final midfield player is Rodrigo Gorsis, who is 20 years of age. He's okay. Again, probably better technically than the other 2 number 10s, but Determination, he's got a little bit about him, but physically nowhere near as good. And that leaves us with three strikers, two of whom are terrible. So the youth players might be getting promoted after all. A Cozy Adhere, no, no. Finishing six, jumping reach of 9 despite being 6'3", and terrible technique, terrible work rate, terrible movement. No thank you. Second one is Svetoslavs Kunyanovs. He is a 24-year-old Latvian. What do you like? Bit better. 6'2", he's okay. He likes to finish. He likes to get in behind. He's quick, he's agile, and he runs off the ball. He's all right. He's not an all-round player, but at this level, he's probably an okay poacher. I could really do with the last one being good. 20-year-old Christian Mezargs. He is 3-star ability. What do you like? Yeah, he's much better. 6 foot, good finisher, good in the air, good pace, good movement, works hard for the team, and even everything else is 7, 8s and 9s rather than 3s and 4s. He's a bit more of an all-round striker who we could maybe put through the middle. So really like him. And I think based on that, 4-2-3-1 has to be the way. Megsar's through the middle. While we've got that guy out injured, we've got a few number 10s to choose from. There's still more to Denko and Ragsavich. There's 3 or 4 decent holding midfielders, and then defence is light, but we can't do anything about that for 2 days. So we have to get through these first couple of games and then just deal with it then. If we have a look, though, at what's been happening in the scouting centre, because we have got a good scout here, have they got anyone worth having? So there's one player here they're recommending, Armand Galiaj. What are you like? Number 10 and striker. Oh, wow. Yeah, I think this is someone we could add. What we've got to be careful of, though, is whether these players want wages or not, because he's just left the bottom club. But we're going to need defenders. So if getting him means we can't get a couple of defenders, we'll just have to prioritise. If we can get him and 1 or 2 others in, that looks like the sort of signing I'd like to do. He's suggesting, though, that he does want to send us over the wage bill. So might be a bit of wheeling and dealing going on. We have a look at the league overall. We know that the transfer window is opening soon. I'll show you that just as evidence. The transfer window is open from the 14th of July for restricted, but from the 15th of June to the 14th of July for the standard window, which is basically after these 2 games before the league breaks. We're in that battle at the bottom. It was predicted pre-season, but we were expected 8th, and now promoted Dinamo are comfortably ahead and look like they're going to finish there. You can see the top 5 have got no chance of going down any year. Meta are nowhere near it. They're in their own little mini league. And then it's between the bottom 4. It looks like the side at the bottom are gone, which is a nice problem not to have. But the other 3 are battling it out, and we have got to stay in touching distance. So we'll probably return after these first 2 games and the transfer window, just so we can see how we've got on up to that cup game, whether we've rebuilt the squad. I don't think we're going to need a whole squad here, but I'd like to get in, ideally probably 6, because I'm thinking 3 first teamers. I'd like to get that one we just saw in. And then maybe a couple of younger players as sort of amateur backups. And again, a bit like at South Gower, if there are players that are signing as amateurs, doesn't really matter, does it? Because we can sign as many as we want without harming the wage bill. So that's going to be the plan for the next few weeks. We will return ahead of our cup game in July just to see how we've been getting on and who's been coming into the club. Because at the moment, the finances are in the negative. There's no sign of a coaching badge coming along here. We've got to make things work. We'll be back in a few weeks to see if we have. Well, we are back for our first league game following the summer break and after a whole hive of transfer activity. It's been a bit of a turbulent summer because despite the fact we picked up a brilliant result in our first league game, the tables have turned, the players have largely turned, and we are struggling to keep this squad gelled together and, more importantly, keep the dressing room on our side. If we go and have a look at the bank balance, it's getting worse and worse because we've been trying to wheel and deal. And we're no closer to getting out of the relegation playoff place, despite the fact we've won one of our 2 league games, which is a worry with the form and the games we've got coming up because they're crucial. We have picked up a fair few injuries on and off in recent weeks, which is a concern for me for the rest of the season. If we start very quickly with the schedule, it's been a bit of a weird time. You'll see a few new faces in here who we'll talk about in a moment. We won our first game against Meta, though. It was a really good performance and result. We were 2 up. We got pegged back a bit late on, but we managed to hold on. And the only goal we conceded was because our keeper wasn't fit and couldn't get down to something. but Melnik's and Mesgard's got the goal, and both of them played really well. We then played the champions at home and only lost 2-1, which I thought was a cracking effort. Then we drew them again in the cup, which was unfortunate. And it was the same outcome. A new signing got the goal, who we'll see in a second. Goalkeeping error again. Bit of a worry. However, we now go into 2 huge league games with the dressing room not on board, because if we go to the dynamics, the goalkeeper has thrown his toys out the pram because we didn't reach the cup's latter stages. It's one of my biggest bugbears with dynamics and communication in FM, and something I'm desperate to change is these objectives, whether it's board, fans or player ones. They are so black and white, like there's no realisation in them. For example, if you were, say, Brighton in the Premier League, you might think it would be quite nice to get to the 5th or the quarter-final of the FA Cup. Whereas if you then faced Manchester City or Liverpool away in the 3rd round, you'd probably go, it's not going to be our year, is it? Let's focus on the league. Whereas here, we played really well, we competed in the game, and now they're saying, well, you didn't reach the quarterfinals, which was the promise, but we faced the champions of the country. There's got to be mitigation in the game. It's far too black and white, and it risks the dressing room turning against us, because he is our most influential player after Scrabbles, and he's throwing his toys out the pram. And guess who agreed with him? Old Scrabbles here. The 2 of them are going to be a thorn in my side. However, the managerial support is atrocious, the results have not been bad, and the transfer activity has been plentiful, whether it be trials, whether it be failed transfers, completed transfers. We have got the lot here. How many players is it in? I said 6. It is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players in instead. We've also had Jadson out, and there's a couple of others we'll be looking to move on. I've been focusing solely on the ins at first though. So Jadson leaves the club, and the players who replace him, firstly, direct replacement, the goal scorer from that cup tie. Ravis Kurse is a right winger who's 26 from Latvia. He has played for that bottom side again. Maybe they've been releasing people. He's not great. He's a squad player. But as I mentioned before, and we've basically found a few more than we expected, if we can get free agents to improve the bench and the depth in the squad, I'll take them. And given his versatility as well, I felt it was a deal too good to refuse, especially with Jadson leaving. The second name you'll also recognise because it's the one that we looked at the end of the introduction. He was scouted by the scouting team before we got here, so the recruitment team take full credit for this one. Arman Skalaj comes in. He is earning a wage, and he is going to be involved. He's going to play as a striker or a number 10. I'm sure we'll get plenty of football for us. Again, his last club with a team who are currently bottom, so you can see why they're struggling, having lost 3 or 4 key players. The following one is a player who was a little bit worse than we anticipated. 19-year-old Artus Curtis, again, comes in as a free agent youngster. Not very good. The next one, though, is a good player. Ingar Stuglis. He came from FC Stockholm. He's a 30-year-old Latvian holding midfielder who's made 1 international appearance, but he is a good player. He's solid. He competes with the other ones. And we were really struggling to find a right back, so I just thought it's better that Scrabbles can go in as an auxiliary fullback, and then we just get an extra holding midfielder where we can actually make the squad stronger. He was followed by Dominik Salajster. He comes in on a loan deal from Croatia, and he is a 3-star player who can play left wing, can play holding midfield. He's a versatile lad. He's not going to play regularly, but he'll be involved, which is what we need. We also got Glebs Kagansovs, who's not very good. He's a left back who was rated better by the scouts than he turned out to be. However, the other left back we've signed is not, because we did manage to find one on that side. It is Robson Itiyama, and I have to give the props here. The director of football made this bid. He's not rated well, but he's found a good player. Itiyama is a Brazilian left back who was playing in Brazil in the lower divisions. He is a very good footballer on 130 quid a week, 4-star ability in that basic fullback role. And you can see already from his attributes there, a huge upgrade on what we had in that position. He's followed by the 4 final signings, a couple of desperate ones on loan. Pavlo Zakidny, he is a central defender, 3.5-star ability, Ukrainian. He is better than what we've got again, so possibly a partner for the first one who'd had a poor season. Hopefully he'll stay fit. The next one after that was Hugo Jinkinson, who's not very good, 2.5-star ability centre-half. He's just a slight upgrade on our backup, so again, as a fringe player for free, I thought it made sense to have him on the bench, and I basically signed him because he's been a recent under-21 international, so makes the squad stronger, not the 11. Elvis Lochkikovs is an 18-year-old holding mid who's a terrible, the one we really got wrong in this window. And then on deadline day, we panicked. We looked for a lone player in that attacking area, and the only one we could get from Finland, Johnny Remesaho. He is a 33-year-old left winger, can play number 10, can play off the right as well. I just really like him. He's different to what we've got. He's got no real physical attributes, but mentally he's good. Technically he's solid. And I just feel in the team we've got at the minute, we might need someone with a bit of experience who can unlock a door. And I feel like he may offer that. So I felt for no wage contribution, it was worth a punt. And I know we risk making someone unhappy if we don't play them. But given the fact we've had so many little injuries out wide, I just think he's going to contribute for us. And I had a little hunch that I had to sign him. So we did. Lots of players coming in then, but let's be honest, bar Itiyama and Galaj, none of them are really contributing to us financially. Stuglis is on a little wage as well, but Jadson's gone out and there are going to be a few others who move on too. There's not really been many additions that are going to cause us financial distress. So this is the squad we've got at the moment. We go into the league game with a few of them turned against us, particularly the goalkeeper, the key player. But these games are absolutely pivotal. We face the two sides directly above us next at home. Meta at home in 4 games time as well. If we can beat 8th, 7th and 6th at home, we've got a great chance. If we can stay unbeaten and win 1 or 2 of them, we've got a decent chance. If we lose them all, we're probably in a relegation playoff. So we're going to get through a few more games and see how we go. Hopefully, these boys will gel. I've kind of done the same again as I did at South Gower, which is sacrifice a month to bring in players who can sort of gel, get up to speed, get up to fitness, and then be good by August. But we've then got a row of horrible games, culminating with away ones that the 2 teams were playing next, and the bottom side back to back. So maybe if we can hit top form for those 5 games and win 3 or 4 of them, maybe that's when we survive. I don't know. Let's move ahead throughout the summer and see what happens. Any old things that pop up, and whether or not we completely lose the dressing room after that bizarre cup revolt. Well, we now approach the end of the restricted transfer window, which ran until the end of August. We're a week away from it, and we're in a position that is going to be absolutely pivotal. As you can see, we've kept within touching distance of the 2 teams above, albeit Dinamo are starting to pull up a bit of a lead. But now, look at those next 4 games in the top right of the screen. We face the bottom side back to back. They've also got 2 games in hand. So if we lose them, let's think worst case here. They'll be 4 points behind with 2 games in hand and the goal difference will be similar. It could be a disaster. So we have got to make sure that we're better than them. And we've got a lot of their former players, so hopefully they will be. And then we've got to try and make a dent into the next 2 because we're starting to improve now. Having got these players settled down, getting a couple back from injury, and getting people up to speed. If I show you the transfer news very quickly, just so you can see that since the window, we've not done anything further on the ins. Let's go through to the schedule and see what's been happening, because on the face of it, it looks pretty average. We didn't lose any of the 3 games that we desperately wanted to avoid defeating after that summer break. However, we only got 1 win, and that was a crucial 90th minute penalty, which was a huge sigh of relief. But other than that, when we've played the top sides, as you can see, we've managed to shore it up a bit. We've got next to no goal threat. We've scored 1 goal this month, and that's going to make it tough to survive. Though I'm hoping that that's just the level of opposition we're facing, because in the other games where we faced teams in that sort of bottom half, we've managed to get goals. So we drew 1-1 against Jelgava. We did manage to equalise straight after conceding, but it wasn't a pretty performance. Against Dinamo, that 90th minute penalty, it could be so huge. Credit to the keeper. I've slated him before. He had a good game there. One of the subs managed to put it away from the spot. We lost to Riga. You'd expect that. We got a 0-0 draw against Meta. That's 4 points from 2 games out of them. We lost to Alda. We lost to RFS. We lost to Lepaja. But they were all really close matches. And then against Alda, we did sneak a 0-0 with a late red card helping us get the point. So I feel like we're just starting to get knitted together. The goalkeeper's performing. We're getting a few players back from injury. That right winger's almost there. You can see that there are players featuring in these games who we've signed during the window, and they're now starting to find their match sharpness. So as we go into these 4, they're crucial games. I'm hoping that we can just win them and really turn our season around. Bottom of the table twice in a row is where it really matters. And then if we do well in those, we can worry about the next 2. Fingers crossed. Let's skip ahead and let's hope, because we need results this week. Well, we've returned after the 4 matches, and I have just one question for you. What were we worried about? We've won them all, apart from the last one. We're flying clear of the relegation playoff, and suddenly things are all looking a bit hunky-dory, aren't they? Our star player is certainly the man who came back from injury, scored that crucial penalty, and he's been a bit of a thorn in the opposition side a few times during this run. Let's have a look at how those 4 games have panned out. 3 wins and a draw. We've given ourselves a big gap over 8th place Jiglava, or sorry, 9th place Jiglava, and a small gap over 8th place Dynamo. We beat the bottom side back to back, but what you've got to remember, if we now go and look at Dynamo, for example, they're playing them next. So that's where things are going to come back in circles. It's basically about when these teams all play the bottom couple. We know that they've got to play once more Jiglava against them, but then 8 point gap is the crucial bit here. Because even if they beat the bottom side, even if they beat Dynamo, even if they get a draw against Meta, that's all they've got now in terms of sides in and around them. The rest of them are against the top half. So I'm feeling confident. We won 2-1 in the first game against the bottom of the table side. It was more comfortable than it looked because we were 2-0 up till late on, made some changes, conceded one, but we were really confident. You can see again, Dusalejev's, the player who was out injured at the start, 9.3 rating. He's fully fit and he's firing. He then played in this game as well, got a 7.9, was better than the man who scored 2 goals, the centre forward, who was brilliant. And also Vigakin's got one too. Really good performance and result. Even better though was the win at Jelgava. They were the side who were expected to finish 7th this year, and we played them off the park. It was a goal apiece for Screbbles, for Megzargs and for Melniks, and it was a really dominant performance all round. And look at that Finn, 7.9 rating for Remis Saho. He's become a good signing as well. We then drew 1-1 away at Dynamo. We were pegged back from 1-0 up, which is a shame because we'd be virtually safe now. But given the games we've got left and the results we've picked up, I'm feeling a bit more confident. I'd still fancy us to get something off Meta. And you look at the other games, I wouldn't bank against us picking up a 0-0 or a 1-0 in one of the others because we do look a pretty decent side now. There's some young players improving. There's a squad that's really getting together. And I think moving forward, we could do something special. We've got 7 games remaining in the league season. The club is in probably the best position it could be at this point. But now, apart from Meta, we've not got any games. In fact, we've got no games against anyone below us. So this is where the real test comes. Do the other sides start to put pressure on, or do they now falter as well? Have we done enough? Let's see. We'll be back in a couple of weeks as we edge a bit closer to what I hope will be the dotted safety line. Well, I've picked this return point not for any news on the pitch, but I guess you could take a little bit from the table, which is a sigh of relief. We have not picked up any points in our last 3 matches. We've lost them all really narrowly. We've become a side that's very hard to beat. Mezarg's got one as we lost to a mid-table team, and then we lost against Valmera and Riga, which is fair enough. However, there are a sign of good news elsewhere. Dynamo and Jelgava have not picked up points. Now, the reason that is so significant, Jelgava lost 3-2 to bottom of the league Tukums. They've lost their opportunity. Now they face all top half sides, then Dynamo and Meta, and they can't both win those games. Dynamo, on the flip side of that, have also lost to bottom of the league Tukums. Then they got a big defeat against Valmera, and they now only face Jelgava, who are in a position below them. And again, they can't both win that game. So we are potentially one match from being safe, one result from being safe. It's just whether or not we can sneak something. But we've got 3 weeks off now, so we're not going to be playing for a while. We might know the answer before we're back because I think other teams have got games before because Tukums have got games in hand and Jelgava won. But that is about the biggest bonus we could have asked for. Both of them losing against bottom of the table, who, by the way, might fancy the chances of getting past Jelgava now, albeit they've got a pretty tough run in. Having said that, they face Meta twice. If they win those, they might well finish above them. If we have a look at the inbox, we have been offered a new deal. Obviously, for the parameters of this save, we cannot take it. It's a really good position to be in. And with this season finishing sort of the middle of November, we can just walk away at the end of our contract because I think it would take a miracle combination of events for us to be relegated here. There's also a youth intake for the club to enjoy. There is one potential star of the future, Andres Gagels. 2-star ability, 5-star potential. He's all right. Not the best personality, but he's got some core attributes and he's 6'3". He's got a good jumping reach. It could be worse, certainly at this level. So let's go and skip through the next couple of games. Hopefully, try and aim it to come back for the game where we can officially survive. Whether or not that's Valmera or Meta, I don't know yet. But we'll come back for one of those so you see some action on the pitch. But otherwise, it's been a really good spell. And in our whole time in charge here, we've not lost a game by more than 2. And given some of the opposition at the top and some of the scorelines we're seeing elsewhere, that's an absolutely remarkable effort. Well, we've played through one more game and annoyingly, we lost it. And I think for the first time in my time in charge, conceded 3 goals we did. Although I say that, the game before we took charge of the club, they conceded 5 against the same opposition. 4, sorry, against the same opposition. Ragsavic got a goal, but we lost 3-1 at home to Valmera. And now we face Meta, who have pulled away. They've gone in really good form recently. Part of the reason for that is because they've played the bottom side twice in a row. I think you're starting to see the pattern of when teams pick up form here. And they're also in the cup final. So what I'm hoping is that we're going to get a bit of a rotated side today. And the main reason I'm hoping for that is because there are 3 games to go and we are 8 points clear. Given the goal difference, if we draw this match, we will be mathematically pretty much safe. And if we win it, we'll definitely be safe without having to look at that either. So hopefully we can get the victory we need or the point we need. And fingers crossed, that team can then cause a shock in the cup final because it would be interesting for Latvian football. And now, though, let's go and get through to the game we're going to see today, which is Meta away. At the same time, you can see Jelgava at home to Valmera, who beat us last week, and Dinamo going away to Lepaja. I'm not really that worried about them, albeit finishing 7th would be nice and probably deserved based on how we've been in these games. Let's have a look at the team selection because there are a couple of players who have been a little bit off it in recent weeks. You can see that right winger who I was glowing in my praise for. He's just dropped off in recent performances. So I'm going to give him a little bit of criticism. Say, I hope you can find your form again soon. And fingers crossed he will. Ragsavic scored off the bench. So he's going to replace Remisaho from the start. I don't want to change too much defensively because I feel these guys have been really solid for the most part. We've not produced that many poor performances. Rulis came in the middle, didn't do great. So actually, I might put Remisaho in there. I think that's about the best we can do with what we've got available at the minute. It's a really decent side. They've been battling so hard for me. And to be honest with you, I've really enjoyed this stint because not only have we been able to work away, we've been able to compete with far better teams. Not with results, but by staying competitive. So let's go and get through to it with Solahar in goal. No longer unhappy about my management. And to be fair to him, improving and doing brilliantly for us until the last game where he was absolutely awful. Maybe I can have a little warning with his last game to say goalkeeping wasn't good enough. Hopefully, he'll make up for it this time. Begakins and Itiyama the fullbacks with Zakidny alongside Kudelkins at centre-half. Screbbles and Melniks in the middle. The 2 wingers are decent enough. Dusalijevs and Raskaviskis. And we've also got Remisaho behind Mezgars up front. I'm looking forward to not pronouncing these names again. Up front we go into this game. Can we secure survival with 2 games to spare? Yes, it's sort of manufactured by the way the fixtures have fallen. And that has filled me with a lot of optimism. There are some high numbers in that team for Meta. And there are a lot of changes. We said they've got the cup final in 4 days. They're safe. They've got nothing to play for in the league. Have they just put the reserves out against us? If they have, that could be an absolute treat. Let's say to these boys, I want to end our run of poor results. Hopefully we've got them inspired and motivated. Fingers crossed we get a reaction on the pitch because if we win this game, we are going to be in the league next year. And that is our objective here as the Firefighter. First half commences. I think you've seen from most of our results this season, this isn't going to be high entertainment. There's not going to be lots of highlights. Let's just hope the ones that are in our favour. Well, here we are, 15 minutes in, and it is a throw-in in an advanced position for us down the right as Vegakins plays a 1-2 and delivers towards the centre-forward. And Mezargs has scored again, 10th for the year. And I know there's a lot of games where he doesn't really get a kick and he'll have to go missing because there's very little service against the top sides. With Jelgava winning, this is now crucial because the side in 8th place or 9th in that playoff place who are 8 points behind us, they're doing their job. We've got to do ours. Let's make it between them and Dinamo and get ourselves out of the mix. We've now got defending to do though, and it could go wrong. Back post set piece off the woodwork. Remisaho half clears, and Solahar is very grateful that the rebound goes straight to him, because we could have been in very big trouble. And we're under a little bit of pressure now because Fai's working down the right. And here is Vilnius into Fyodorovs. And out to the left-hand side. Meta trying to get to the byline. There's 3 in the middle. 4th arriving. Alunji's up and it's poor defending. Itiyama's been really good for us, but that is a very poor mistake. Agunji's now got the set piece and the penalty to try and change it himself. He steps up. It's saved by Solahar. The chat worked about his poor performance last time. Brilliant goalkeeping up to his top right. And we stay 1-0 up, and survival stays on the cards as the corner kick is headed over the bar. Well, praise the boys, because the morale had got down from that penalty. And with Jelgava doing their job, we need the win. And our goalkeeper is trying his best to make sure of it. Nearly half time, we've been outplayed for the most part. Jelgava are now 2-0 up as well. Dinamo losing, which does help us. But we've got to get the result here. So let's tell the boys we don't want any complacency. We'll just hope that we can find some form in the second half, because we've not actually played that well in this game. We've got a throw on the left again with Melniks and Itiyama, who gave away that pen. Raksavskis, it back to Itiyama, in again! There's the right winger, the other player we had the personal chat with. We criticised his performance, but how late has that been disallowed? He'd done the whole celebration, normally it's quick. That was a good 15-20 seconds before he was ruled out. And I'd already finished my celebration and the monologue. 25 to go. The centre-half's now injured as well. I'm going to have to bring on Jenkinson, who's not quite as good, but hopefully can see us over the line. I'm going to take off the man we brought in today. I'm going to bring on Galaj as the number 10. He's actually done okay when he's played in there, but he is yet to get his first goal for the club. And then Stuglis will probably be the other one. I'm not sure who he's in place of though, so actually we're just going to wait a while for that. 2 changes made, 65 gone. They haven't done much in the second half, but they've been the more threatening team overall. And that's where my concern is going into the latter stages. Melnik's looking tired. I think we'll make a few once we get through this, if we survive it. He's out to the left-hand side for the host as Meta work down the line. Is that given away? Not quite. They're going to get in here. You can see it. Making a run off Itiyama. He's beaten to the ball. They've turned inside him. Keeper. You were the hero for saving the penalty, and then you do that. We're going to put Scrabbles out there, I think. He's going to replace Itiyama. He's just had a really off game when it matters most. Maybe not a big game player. I don't know what it is. Both holding midfielders are off. We'll bring on Stuglis and Grajnovs. They're better that way round. And then we'll probably take off one of the wingers. I think it's going to be... Mortadenko looks the less nervous of the two. So he's going to come on the right. And this team is now significantly weaker. But a draw is probably enough, because the goal difference is about 20 better than Jelgava, despite the fact they're 2-0 up today. I don't know if we hold on the way this is going, because we look leggy. We look really tired. And you've got to be fair, while they started poorly, they've probably brought on some of their superstars after all those changes. They are a significantly better team, and it's showing. There's a reason they're 15 points clear of us. As Achol works down the right, can Vagakans deal with him? It's to the byline. It's crossed to the back post. Don't do it to me. First goal of the season. It's the old classic. And in 2 minutes, this game has turned on its head. We're going to go attacking and encourage them. And Jelgava have gone 3-0 up. And now I do start to get worried, because that is having a swing on the goal difference, albeit not enough. I think we're going to be absolutely fine. But still, not the perfect day at the office. It could have been better. We lose 2-1 at Meta. We're probably not going to pick up another point this year. It's about whether Jelgava win both of theirs. And if they do, we could be in a little bit of trouble, because now, without that draw, the gap is down to 5 with 2 games remaining. Let's have a look at the remaining schedules for both and decide if we need to show anything, because you can see there the goal difference is still 19, but it might not be a factor if Jelgava win both. I'm hoping that the fact they're away to Dinamo and Meta, they're going to bottle it at some stage. Or the other alternative is, if they win at Dinamo, we then need Dinamo to lose their other game, which is at home to Riga, who are one of the best sides in the league. So, as we've mentioned, it will probably take a miracle for us to go down. But let's just work out when all of these games are being played, because really, Dinamo v Jelgava is the one we need to look out for. Is it played at the same time as ours? Yes, it is, basically. I'm almost tempted to not manage it and go and have a look at their game. What I think we'll do is we'll just play through it off camera and then we'll show you what the result is as we go along. Because this has now become a bit more tense than it needs to. However, if Dinamo, I guess this is the way we'll do it. If Dinamo or Jelgava can still overtake us going into the final day, if there's still a risk of us being relegated, which basically Jelgava have to win, then they're both on 24 and we're in trouble on the final day. If that's the case, we'll show the final game of the season. But I'm desperately hoping, no offence, that is not the situation. Back in a minute to see what happens in that big game off camera. Well, it wasn't pretty and it wasn't convincing, but other sides have done the favour for us. I must say, though, a week later, what a result we got, because RFS wrapped up the title with a game to spare, but we managed to get a 0-0 draw against them, and I'm not really quite sure how. It's another one of those games where we were backs to the wall, we were fighting hard, we didn't really offer anything going forward. We did create a couple of little chances near the end, actually had the higher expected goals, which shows how pointless that stat is. You can see defensively and the goalkeeper stars again. We just about hung on at home, and actually our home record has been very good defensively. If we have a look though at the table, the crucial news is that Jelgava did not beat Dinamo. A 1-1 draw in that game is the result that keeps us up. They equalised after an early goal from the host, but they were battered. They played really poorly, so thankfully we survived. We are 5 points clear with a game to spare. And it is now 5-2 in favour of successes, this time in the Firefighter. However, we're not going to just resign at the end of the season. We've got one more game to go. We're going to let our contract run all the way through to the end of the month this time, because we are out at the end of November. It's only 3 weeks after the season. And for our next summer to summer job, we've got, 2 months before we need to be employed. And we can then get one over the festive period. So for now, we're going to get through the last game of the season. We'll come back to show us leaving our job at the end of our contract. And then we're going to go on the job hunt for Club 8 to find out who we're going to be managing next week. I'll see you in a moment as we come back with hopefully an answer and some job interviews. Well, we've got through the final game of the league season, which became pointless in the end, but was important for one reason, which is that we now finish 7th instead of 8th, which essentially for me means we've exceeded expectation. If we go and have a look at the schedule overall, we bored the fans to tears again. A 1-1 draw against Alda, who actually we got 2 draws out of 3 against. One of the sides we really did well against outside that bottom 3 or 4. So a really important season for us, and we've made a success of it. It is 5-2 on the CV in our favour. Our profile shows that our job contract ends in 16 days' time. We will not be signing a new one. So we will either be released at the end of our deal, or we will have to resign if we don't get let go from our contract. For now, though, we've got our National A licence. We're going to start looking at jobs soon. But first, let's just do a very quick season review here to reflect on our time at Supernova and how well we've done. Because while no one stood out in terms of performances, it wasn't the prettiest to watch. It was a season where we just had to do a job, and we really did. And there's no doubt that some of these players we've brought in have made a big impact to the team. The season results see us finishing 7th, 6 points clear of relegation. Jelgava lost the playoff against Spartak, who are promoted back to the top tier. That's the job we had the interview at the year before, ironically, so it's all come full circle. 286 fans, the average attendance, and a big upturn in form after we came in, including those crucial back-to-back wins against the bottom side, and then followed by the 3-0 win against Jelgava. Those are the 3 games that ultimately have saved us. If we have a look through the moments to remember, a 3-0 victory at Jelgava was the match to remember. A 1-1 draw at home. In fact, no, that was the biggest win. The match to remember was a 1-1 draw against the top half side. And goal of the season was scored by Vagakans. He scored a cracker in a 3-1 win against the bottom team. The 1-star reputation remains. The finances remain a mess. I will try and ask, just for the sake of it, for a coaching badge the day before we leave. And I'll try and leave the club in good stead. If we can give people new deals, if we can get people in a good position, then we will do. But the finances at the moment, looking a little bit messy. So the next update from this club should be the last. It should be us resigning from the role or being let go at the end of our contract as we look for another job. Our 8th club of the series, and hopefully before the end of the episode, we're going to get offered a good one. Well, I've actually come back a day before we're due to leave this football club because I had to show you the result of a bit of a punt and a couple of other things. So there's no way of getting around this message. It is the key news. We have been given license to get a coaching course. It's incredible. So we're now going to have a Continental C license. In all of the years of the head coach, where we've barely been able to get a license, struggling down the divisions at clubs in debt, in this save, everyone was saying in the comments it would be a problem for us. It's been the easiest part of the process. It's been easier than the work on the pitch. So we're getting our fourth coaching badge, and you have to ask what Supernova's intentions are because it's on the same day that we've rejected a new deal. So they're basically either paying it to us as a thank you for the performance that we've given them for keeping them up, or they're just blind stupid. But either way, we get our fourth coaching badge in 7 clubs, and we've only had 5 successes. So despite the fact one of those was given by a failure, it's a pretty ridiculous effort. We've also been offering players and things new deals. We've been trying our best to protect the club for the future because let's be honest, after all, they're certainly looking after our future, aren't they? We'll be back when we either have to resign or when we're let go. And after that, I don't really know what happens when your contract ends if the club wanted to keep you. If we get kept on a month to month, we'll resign and we'll look for a new job. Let's see the news in a minute. Well, we're only 4 days later, but at the end of our contract, it did just go on to month, so we've been forced into resigning. And this is the first job interview we've been offered. We're going to go on the prowl to see where we end up next week. This one could be interesting because our first interview, and note the owner here, is at RE Verton, who are in the Belgian First National Amateur Division. That's a bit of a mouthful. It's one hell of a relegation battle down at the bottom there. And it's a mix of sort of B teams from some of the top sides and then other ones who are struggling. And you've got Beershot's first team in there as well. They've had a little fall from grace too. If we go back though, the owner of the club is N'Golo Kante, which gives you something to work with. And we're going to attend that interview and see if we get it. Would certainly be a job that would entertain my interest. Whether or not we get offered the opportunity at a club that is, how big, 2-star reputation, that might be a tough ask. They're massively underperforming though. It'd be a good job if we could get it. Well, spoiler alert, we didn't get it. Over 2 weeks later, we're back. We've had, to be honest, it's quite encouraging. We've had a whole host of job interview offers. We've had a chance to go to Greece, but it was a club who were marooned and we couldn't have kept up. Loads of offers from Sweden and from China where the seasons have finished, and that would obviously break the rules of the Firefighter. One in England from Truro, but again, they were about 12, 13 points from safety. It just wasn't possible. They'd played a game more than most as well. So we've got to have realistic challenges at this point. And the 2 that have popped up now are ones that could be very interesting as well. The first one could see us leave Europe for the first time because Vendor FC of South Africa was only in a stream a week or so ago. We were talking about managing there in the late 2000s and not doing so for about 15 years. They are 10th in the National First Division Championship, but a bit like that Belgian job interview a moment ago. Look at this table. You've got one club that are down, and then pretty much everyone else is in a relegation battle. 15 points is second bottom. Vendor are 10th on 17, and they're also only 2 points off 7th. They're expected to finish mid-table. It could be a really fun season, that, because it looks like anyone can beat anyone, and it would be a really interesting year. So that's a job interview we're definitely going to go for, because it's both a relegation battle and a mid-table and playoff battle. And then we've also got one from AD San Juan. They are in the Federation second group in Spain, the 4th tier. They're against C sides, they're against B sides, and they're struggling near the bottom themselves. 5 points from safety, most defeats in the league, and really struggling on the goal difference front. Both of those also represent a step up from what we've had. So this job interview is at a 1.5-star reputation club who are expected to go down. And the Vendor one, a 2-star professional club, but outside of Europe, a chance for us to expand our horizons. And again, a bit like we mentioned with Slovakia and with Latvia, do something that we've never done before, or not done in this case for 15 years. And even then, it was one of the top sides I managed in South Africa. So these 2 will attend. I'd love to get one of them. But whether or not we will is the big question. Back in a moment to find out if we do. Well, Christmas Eve, and our treat and our present is a job offer, and one that requires us to travel a very long distance because we are leaving Europe for the first time. Vendor FC have approached us, a transfer budget of -2,500. The negative transfer model working its magic there. A wage though up there with the South Gower one, a wage budget higher than we've ever had before, And as you can see, that extra bit of pressure, expectation to finish mid-table, which looks fine on the face of it because that's actually where they are positionally. But they are 2 points off the relegation zone and 2 points off the top half. It is a season where, if you go and have a look at the preview, so many teams are so tightly matched. There's only the one side who are bottom who are expected to be well adrift. So this is going to be a really interesting league to manage in just because it looks so competitive. And I didn't feel I could turn that opportunity down with the chance to stay up and that little bit of extra pressure of managing outside of Europe and trying to make success by finishing in mid-table. So next week, week 8 of the Firefighter, our 8th club will be the first outside of Europe. Will we succeed at Vendor Football Club? Well, you can come and join me to find out. If you enjoyed this one, fun in Latvia for the first time, we're breaking new ground in a lot of episodes here. And please do put a thumbs up on the video. Will the negative transfer budget cost us? Will we fail falling outside of European football? I hope you'll come and join me to find out. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, subscribe, turn that notification bell on, all the usual good stuff. And I will see you back here next Sunday evening as we do it all again. But this time, we're going to the Southern Hemisphere.